Now let's just dive into the product design interview.
Sounds good.
Cool. So how would you design a next generation entertainment system?
That's a good question. Before we start, we'd love to ask a couple of my own questions first. First, how would you define the home entertainment system here? I guess I would think about it in terms of what's in a typical living room. I imagine the typical American household has, a TV, speakers, maybe some game consoles and smart devices. Is there anything else that you have in mind that might be important?
No, I think that's a great start.
Okay. Then next, I'll like to understand our constraints here. I assume when you say next generation, we might have a little bit more time to develop and launch this. Would it be safe to say that we're thinking about launching, this entertainment system in maybe 5 years?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, great. And lastly, want to understand the goal of our design. I imagine we want to make money off it, so monetization could be objective. But other possible goals to optimize here might be engagement or retention. For example, if we're Google and we're trying to release a new product that might encourage existing Chromecast or Nest users to engage with the system, we might be thinking engagement. But does monetization sound good?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think for now, let's optimize for monetization and assume that you are a new entrant into the home entertainment space.
Okay, great. So let's get started. So essentially the approach that I'm going to use here, I'm going to first start with the customer, right? The customer focus. Think about the different customer segments that currently use home entertainment systems. Then I'll try to understand their pain points with current systems. And come up with solutions that solve these pain points. I'll then prioritize these solutions and provide a quick summary of how I would launch it at the end. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds perfect.
Awesome. So I'm going to take a couple moments to structure my thoughts here for you first.
Great.
Awesome. So let's start first with the types of customers that might use home entertainment systems. So I came up with 3 ideas. So there's college students, young professionals, and families. So first, for college students, I'm thinking college dorm where the home entertainment system is mainly used for gaming or watching sports. It can also be used as the main gathering space, like in parties, house parties or Super Bowl watch parties, meaning music is probably an important element that you have to consider here. For our second segment of young professionals, the home entertainment system is mainly used at the end of a long day or on weekends, de-stress after work. They probably care about the system being, super easy to use and being able to get the content they want to consume at the right time. And then our last segment for families, there might be multiple users for this user group, from the parents after a day of work, as well as the kids. They might be watching things together or separately, and they might value entertainment systems with potentially a variety of options that provide value to all different types of users. Since here we're trying to optimize for monetization, I'm thinking maybe we focus on families. They have a lot of spending power, and especially with launch of new, streaming services like Disney Plus, there's been a lot of products aimed at them, and there's also a lot of them. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I like your reasoning so far. But quick clarifying question: how exactly would you define a family?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it's pretty general. But I would say, the typical American family with, let's say, 2 kids, 2 parents, maybe teenager or younger.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, great. So now let's try to understand the different pain points for families, right? So right off the bat, there's a couple things I can think of. First off, most current home entertainment systems are not set up to serve multiple interests at the same time, right? What if my kids want to watch Disney, but the NFL playoff games are on? Or if someone is playing games on the TV, that means we can't watch TV at the same time. I think second, the hardware is largely independent, right? To turn on my Apple TV, I need to pull up my Apple TV remote. And then to turn on the Xbox or PlayStation, I need to pull up a separate controller for that, or walk and press the button, right? Then for linear TV, right, there's the cable box and it has its own remote. Not only does that make it hard to use, but it's pretty easy to lose or misplace these controllers or remotes, especially when you have small kids around. And you have to also charge these things, right? For batteries and charging stations. And last, for our pain points, I feel like if I were a parent, I would be very concerned about sharing kid-friendly content to my kids, right? Or non-kid-friendly content. While many of these platforms have child filters, I have to kind of individually turn it off when I want to watch my own shows, especially when you have multiple apps and streaming services you use, right? This might become a problem. So, to recap, there's three key pain points we highlighted here, right? First, home entertainment systems right now are not set to serve multiple people well, who want to consume different types of content at the same time. Second, hardware is non-user friendly, from having to charge to being largely independent from other entertainment providers. And third, child safety is a major concern, right? So out of these three, I feel like maybe I want to focus on the first two. I think finding both kind of a software and a hardware solution that solve these problems could be interesting. Do you agree?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm gonna take a couple moments more to think about some solutions, right?
Yeah, great.
Cool. Thanks for waiting. So I came up with three solutions here. The first idea is to use a smart TV app that links to Bluetooth that splits your TV up into different screens, right? So nowadays, our TV screens getting bigger, this is something that's becoming more and more manageable, right? Maybe there's multiple TVs in a living room as well. Imagine wearing wireless headphones and being able to listen to the movie that's playing on one part of the screen. And right next to you, your kids are playing games, right, with their own headphones, with minimal distraction between the two. I kind of see it as maybe playing a game split screen, but instead of a game, like you're watching on one hand and playing a game on the other with two different people. The second idea is targeted towards the problems of having multiple controllers. So instead, you can control all your home entertainment devices from the same app on your phone. So imagine controlling your TV from the phone, or if you need an extra Wii controller when you have friends coming over, right, using your phone as a Wii remote. This app also has, maybe a smart assistant where you can use your voice to open different apps and switch between the content that you're consuming. Since we're thinking about next generation ideas here, we can probably take it further and maybe even build a recommendation engine, on top of that. So now we can learn from your behavior and habits and recommend what you want to do at that same time. And then our third idea here also targets both, consumer pain points. And it's a VR solution where, both parents and kids wear VR goggles like Oculus with headsets and can play and watch, completely different entertainment solutions while, sitting next to each other on the couch, right? Or everyone can wear the VR goggles and watch the same movie with, leveraging your $1,000, surround sound system, giving you a really complete, immersive experience. I definitely see that VR enables the family not to have to fight over the TV anymore. And it also increases the immersiveness of the experience. So, just to recap, I came up with three solutions. First is a smart TV app that enables multiple viewing. Second is a mobile app that controls all your home entertainment devices. And it uses a smart assistant and recommendation algorithm to make it easy to use. And third is a VR integrated solution that connects to your home entertainment system. So unless you have any questions about this, I would love to go ahead and prioritize these solutions.
No, that sounds good. Please proceed.
Okay, great. So the way that I want to prioritize is based on two key metrics here. So impact on our core metric that we define as monetization, and second on effort. So effort to build and implement. So to our first idea of the smart TV app that enables multiple viewing, the impact would probably be low, as it will be distracting to divide a TV into multiple sections for different users. And it will only be applicable for consumers really with large TVs. And if they've already bought large, expensive TVs, not sure they want to divide it into smaller sections and have a smaller screen. But on the effort, on the other hand, would probably be medium, as we need to integrate with a number of different platforms and services and account for kind of different screen resolutions across different TV sizes. So that can be kind of complex. So on our second idea of having the mobile app controller, the impact I think would be high, as you no longer have to keep track of all these different controllers and have to think about charging and maintaining them. You can just use your phone, and additionally adds value to not just a couple people with expensive TVs, but to a large number of consumers. Um, and on the effort hand, it would be pretty similar to the one before as medium, since it does require a lot of business development, partnership work to integrate with all these different providers, services, and platforms. But there all are a lot of kind of like external APIs that we can use. On the third idea of the VR integrated solution, the impact would be medium, as VR is not a medium that's commonplace, in most households. And in 5 years, while that might change, this might be a good opportunity to introduce many households to virtual reality. For the effort side, it would be high because, not only are you integrating with a number of different platforms and services, but you're also working in a relatively new space in virtual reality, right? Which has less infrastructure, less APIs, talent even, due to kind of the relative novelty of the field. So all in all, I would actually prioritize the mobile app controller, high impact, medium effort, followed by the VR solution, and then lowest in priority would be the kind of the smart TV that enables multiple viewing.
Cool. It sounds good. Most of what you said made sense to me. I just want to push you a little on the mobile app controller and why you attributed the effort to be medium, especially when you're integrating with mobile apps and like different partners. There could be a lot of like hardware and software issues. I know that with Chromecast specifically, there are a lot of like issues with a number of their partners not having like kind of a unified platform. Can you kind of address why you think the effort level would be similar for like the smart TV app that enables multiple viewing and the mobile app controller?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it refers to kind of the constraints that we talked about at the beginning. So, we talked about, having like, 5 years to kind of launch this. And, from my own personal experience, having worked at Nest, and having kind of the smart home ecosystem made of like 1,000 partners, and just kind of seeing the difficulty in having, all these big teams and these big kind of business development and sales teams having to kind of create these partnerships with these providers to integrate with Nest. Definitely understand it's not an easy thing. I think within the 5-year time frame that we have, considering that there's probably a lot less entertainment providers. When you think about the big ones of like Apple, Google, and then, like your console players, and then like your streaming services like Roku, Chromecast, and then, maybe some of your app providers like, Netflix, Hulu. Like I would say there's probably a smaller number of providers we have to integrate with versus something like Nest that needs to integrate with over 1,000 smart home providers. So I think, from a sizing perspective, I think that 5 years is definitely enough adequate time to kind of build and build these kind of integrations as well as the relationships with these providers. At the same time, it's not easy. It's going to require a lot of kind of manpower and all of that. But I think, versus something like VR, where you have to build kind of a completely new, solution in kind of a, where the VR infrastructure isn't really fully built out yet, but also get all these integrations with different partners. That's kind of where I kind of did the comparison.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds exactly right. So now can you kind of help me walk me through like how your mobile app controller solution would work?
For sure. Yeah, so let's say, it's on a phone, you open the app. So on the home screen, you might have a list of connected apps, services, and devices that are already connected to your phone that you set up. So let's say you have your Chromecast, you have the different services that are connected to your Chromecast, like Netflix and Hulu, and then, you have an Xbox, right? So if you click the Netflix icon, it will open your Chromecast and then opens Netflix directly on your TV. Using credentials that you have already saved on your device. If you click the Xbox icon, your phone might turn into an Xbox controller when you put it on landscape mode, and it launches your Xbox, right? A lot of these gaming consoles have smart home capabilities already built in. So we may be able to leverage a lot of the existing infrastructure like APIs to integrate with them. Another big feature that we have to think about is adding devices, right? And I think we can probably leverage Bluetooth for scanning your, Wi-Fi or local area network to add these new devices. And of course, we would have to work with these different entertainment providers to have access to these devices and services so that we could connect.
Perfect. And so what would you think some of the risks of this product or service might be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest risk here is that we're relying on the ability to integrate and use different solutions, right? So, the huge value of this really comes from if this is a one-stop shop controller to use everything in your living room, right? If there's key providers missing, like Apple or Netflix isn't cooperating, then the value proposition weakens a lot. So, we need a really good, partnerships or business development team who can make these integrations happen. And I think the other risk here is of the competitive space, right? There's a lot of players that are trying to be like a one-stop shop controller, like Roku, Chromecast, Apple TV, already integrates with all these different apps and channels, right? And moreover, both Google and Apple have done native integrations with their own phones. So you can control your TV from the home screen on your phone without even opening an app. So innately, they already have an advantage there. So we have to think about how do we partner with these competitors while still offering a differentiated solution that's compelling to our consumers and would be attractive for them to buy. Which is, I feel, once we add maybe console integrations, right? Sony, Microsoft, and more kind of these personalization recommendation engine features, that could be attractive value prop.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Could you now just please summarize and just wrap up?
Definitely. Great. So we went through a process where we looked at the different consumers and customers that might find value and purchase home entertainment solutions. Out of these, we focus on the segment of families due to the volume and the purchase power of this group. We found that two of the key pain points of these families are the need to satisfy both the kids and the parents, as well as using different devices, using different controllers, right? So we came up with 3 solutions, of which we like to prioritize a kind of a mobile app controller that integrates with all your different devices and services and leverages a recommendation engine on top of that. We talked about some of the risks of the value of getting all the partners integrated, and especially some of those partners that are competitors. But it's important to get these integrations done and these partners on board, and differentiating against customers, against the competitors using our kind of recommendation engine.
Awesome. Actually, something just popped into my mind. I'm just curious if you have an answer to this. I know an issue with Chromecast is like people can fight for the TV with their phones. How would you kind of address that?
Oh, that's an interesting problem. I think one, we could think about, one way would be thinking about a kind of like a, authority kind of there are like a permissions level, right? Like you have your parent and maybe the parent always, he's the owner of the account and he has authority over everyone else. And then the parent can just add kind of children to their account and they have less authority. I think another way is we could treat it as, whoever is the first one to open the controller gets to use it. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think in a more realistic scenario, they should just really talk it out in person.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And thanks
Awesome.
for sharing your thoughts. We'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you.